witch summoned flying hunter beasts. They tried to shake off the pursuers behind them, but the enemy closed in step by step. With no other choice, they sprinted straight toward the lake. By the time the pursuers arrived, the beasts were already airborne. But it was all an illusion. The real them had already slipped beneath the water. Holding their breath, they waited for the right moment to escape. Meanwhile, the enemy caught up with the fleeing beasts. Magic attacks rained down relentlessly. The creatures shook violently, on the verge of crashing. The enemy hurled ropes, trying to capture them alive. Just as the ropes went taut, another hunter beast burst out of nowhere and snatched its companion away. The pursuers were left grasping at air. But the trouble wasn't over. They still had to cross the river. And only one being could help them, the river god. So they came up with a plan, a honey trap. Lucy pretended to bathe in the river, successfully drawing the river god's attention. He suddenly burst from the water. Lucy froze in fear, unable to move. The river god grabbed her foot, dragging her toward the depths. At that moment, Jack charged out from the shadows and yanked Lucy back onto the shore. The river god's followers exposed the scheme on the spot. Enraged, the river god refused to help them. Then, the witch stepped forward. She took out a rotten apple and poured the water of life over it. Instantly, the apple became fresh again. She bit into it without hesitation. Jack shouted desperately from behind. She ignored him completely. The next second, a miracle occurred. Her body began to change rapidly. In an instant, she transformed into a young girl. Jack stood there, completely stunned. The river god turned around and was immediately captivated. The witch tossed him a flirtatious glance. The river god fell instantly. Without hesitation, he agreed to guide them. He carried them across and delivered them to a small island. As he left, his eyes were filled with reluctance. At the island's center, two massive iron rings stood tall. No ordinary person could even budge them. The witch pulled out a mysterious fruit and swallowed it whole. Energy erupted instantly. She pried the iron rings apart with ease. Only then did they realize the entire island was actually a colossal whale. Under the witch's guidance, the whale rose into the air, soaring straight into the sky. Before long, they reached the frozen mountains. Icy winds slammed into them. Everyone trembled from the cold. Jack popped a piece of candy into his mouth and casually tossed the wrapper away. The scrap drifted perfectly into the whale's blowhole. The whale shuddered violently, completely losing control. The snow-covered mountain rushed toward them. Jack gripped the iron rings tightly, fighting to regain control. With no way out, he threw everything he carried overboard. The whale slammed into the ice mountain, instantly widening the distance. Using his last ounce of strength, Jack yanked the chains hard. The whale shot straight upward, leaping vertically through the air. Jack rode the momentum, sliding forward, and finally landed on the icy mountain. They didn't stop. After crossing the entire forest, their destination finally appeared. A colossal humanoid mountain of snow stood before them. The mountain slowly opened its eyes. The wind howled. Then, a figure burst free from the snow. It was the one they came to save, the Demon Lord.